Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now if you're a long time viewer of this channel then you might remember this, the HD 2600 XT. I paid just over £1 for it back in 2017. It's probably the graphics card I've owned the longest and I only rediscovered it when working on a video idea. The 23rd of this month marked 12 years since Mafia II got released and to me it's a very special game. I wanted to talk about it in some way and I decided to try and track down one of the minimum suggested graphics cards as stated by 2K to see how well the game would run. These requirements call for a 2600 Pro, which is actually quite a bit weaker than the XT, but when I read this I was reminded that I did in fact own one of these cards, and at the time I just couldn't remember which. This led me to where we are right now. My 2600 XT here is the better GDDR4 version, not the GDDR3 card that seems more common. Not only was I surprised to see that this thing still works, but it's still compatible with the latest version of Windows 10, and although it looks incredibly out of place sitting atop my modern Ryzen system here, it has no issues with the hardware. The driver support ended in 2013 on AMD's official product page, yet Windows 10 automatically detected drivers from 2015, and once they were installed, the card defaulted to 1920 by 1080 resolution at 60Hz. Anything higher though, and it wouldn't display an image. But that might be due to the DVI to HDMI adapter. The 2600 XT was obsolete when I bought it half a decade ago, but just like back then, it can still play older games just fine, and Mafia II here, the original subject of today's video, runs with over 30 FPS at 720p with the lowest settings. There will be some drops below 30 frames per second for sure, but the game is certainly playable to an extent. Nice to see that my £1 investment, or £1.25 investment, is still netting me positive returns. Back when I tested this originally, the dollar conversion rate was about $1.55, I think, but now this card is worth $1.48. So yeah, I don't really know what to do with that information, but there we go. I wonder if I could still get a profit if I sold this on eBay. Grand Theft Auto 5 is the other game I tested, which also runs to some extent. I'm playing it at a glorious 1280 by 720 scaled back to 50%. It looks truly horrible, but there are some parts of the map, emptier areas, that will allow the car to hit at least 30 FPS yet again. Most of the time though, you'll be looking at 20 to 25 with this old beast. I don't think we overclocked this card in the original video, but you'll be pleased to know that this is possible. The cooler might have flames on it, but the 2600 XT actually runs quite cool, and it's very quiet under full load. The overclocking potential is so puny though that we don't really have to worry about excess heat or noise here. We can drag the sliders up to their maximum without any concern. A whopping 57 MHz core clock boost and 79 MHz memory boost is all we can get from this card, so I'm guessing XT must stand for extra terrible. Seriously though, this did actually increase the average frame rate by 1%. Normally I would say that this is within a margin of error, but this is one of my favourite cards I've ever tested, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. That said, we did lose a frame off of the 1% low figure as well, so yeah, it sort of breaks even. The 256 megabytes of memory furthers the limitation here because it's all pretty much used up as soon as we start this game. Any game that still runs with the X10 for that matter. While testing these games, I also couldn't help but wonder why graphics cards don't look like this anymore. I would assume that GPU boxes have been toned down because they don't need to really catch your eye in a hardware store anymore, as most of us probably buy online. It's a shame we don't see as much artistic expression with the actual products though, but maybe that's because a lot of companies that used to do this don't exist anymore. Furthermore, I think consumer taste just changes. Fancy lighting effects are way more popular than graphics card shrouds with half-naked elves or whatever else on them, I suppose. It just looks a bit polarising when you're building an entirely black PC or an entirely white PC. We should definitely bring back flames though. You can't go wrong with flames, even if the last thing you probably want to associate with any piece of hardware is fire. The 2600 XT will remain in my collection, maybe even for another half decade, but all the time it's working, it'll remain in a box under my bed. Thank you very much for watching this one, a bit of a recap on the 2600 XT. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let me know what you think of the card and whether or not you actually owned one of these below in the comments, of course. And hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.